mic is right. Melanated family, back for another Thursday.
Yeah.
Black History edition of the Melanated Convo podcast. Every Thursday here at 7 p.m., me and my sister Sonia Williams Lewis show up to give y'all a dose of what's going on in Black society, our perspective on it. In this month, after we talk about news stories and things that are important to us, we're going to talk about different figures from Black History Month, situations or just people. But this month, how it's very commercialized, and the dominant society have taken this month and shifted it and rerouted it in certain ways. But as an individual, you can do your due diligence and figure out who certain people are. You can take this month to Google, right?
Yeah.
If you Google a lot and do a little research, write some shit down, you'll be surprised what you learn. So if you don't know about our history at this point and you're an adult, I give you a little slack if it wasn't something you cared about or didn't, find the interest in. But now, if you got Black kids, we're going to talk about some stories today
Yeah.
that make it important for you to talk about all this with your Black children. So this is your brother Harrison, Melanated Convo podcast. Like button, subscribe button. If you're watching it on Facebook, share it with your friends, share it with your mama and them. We on YouTube at the Melanated Convo every Thursday. Me and my sister, Sonia Williams Lewis, who is an educator, creator of a Scribe Educational Consulting. How are you doing today, sister?
I am wonderful. I am in that time of the year where it's reflection point. And February always does that to me for several reasons, not just because it's Black History Month, but it is also just like we can no longer say Happy New Year, right? We're in the thick of it. And time begins to fly after February is gone. That's just my opinion and the way I see it. So I'm always reflecting, okay, am I ready for this? It's going to be a race. So let's get ready to sprint. You know how it's on that to-go line is like, mark, set, okay, go.
There
So
you
that's
go.
what I'm feeling like right now.
There you go. And everybody, do me a favor and wish my sister Sonia a happy birthday. Her birthday was February 13th.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Another year around the sun. You just mentioned what you were reflecting on based on the new year and everything. How do you feel this new birthday season? New goals, new aspirations?
I can't take my foot off the gas. Like, it's go season. That's where I feel very refreshed and confident in, because I think there's a difference when we get complacent in how life is going and it feels like it's smooth sailing. But 50 a couple of years ago was like, ooh, okay, I feel good. I'm healthy. I don't have a worry or care in the world. 52 is like, okay, things are changing. We made it out the pandemic. Still, the awakening of tomorrow's not promised. All of those things are every day. Not, I can't say every year now. Every day is a reflection on, did I manifest the things? Did I was I the best version of myself today? More so than that I was yesterday. And that's like one of my driving forces. So I keep my foot on the gas. I take it off, for rest, because rest is important. And for Black folks, if you hearing us at the sound of this voice, rest is revolutionary, because our slave ancestors could not rest. Like, they worked them to the bone from sun up to sundown and after. Right. So rest is revolutionary, and I'm going to get mine, but my foot is on the gas. Just know that I'm gonna be ready, and the sprint is on. And I can use track analogies because I ran track. It's like you
Did you? Okay.
Start off fast, and then you check around and see what your surroundings are, and you might ease up a little bit. But then when you at that mark where it's about to be the finish, you put it on again. So you give your body time to pace so that you can make it through the race.
Yeah, and I was watching a podcast, and there's certain individuals on YouTube that inspire me, certain Black brothers, and one of them was like, and this is a successful brother, very smart man that I admire, said, "Man, I take 2 or 3 naps a day." I was blown away at first, because in my mind, I have to do as much as I can do during the day and sleep. And the terminology sleep is the cousin of death. So in my mind, I was like, I'm behind in certain things in my mind, so I'm gonna stay up.
Right.
and grind. And that means I'm grinding harder if I'm not sleeping, but not really.
Right.
You need some rest. All of
Absolutely
us
do.
need rest.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And
So that's very
especially if you
important.
like me, if you like any of the Aquariuses that I know, we like to enjoy life. And so when it was birthday week last week, it was just like, oh my gosh, go, 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 celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. How can I take a 5-hour energy drink? Can I drink some coffee? How are we gonna manage this time? Because you want to get it in and have those different compartments of life that these different people are in, pulling you in every which direction. But the
Mhm.
reality is I can remember by Tuesday of last week, I felt the things that told me my body needs rest. So when I don't get
Mm.
good sleep, I get I get twitches in my face. It
Hmm.
feels like an itch, but it's a twitch. And I can, if I look closely enough in the mirror, I can see my eye jumping. And my doctor has said that's because you haven't gotten enough sleep. My
Mm.
nose will start to itch. It's because you haven't gotten enough sleep. So we
Damn.
just dismiss these things and be like, I got to keep going. I got to
Mhm.
keep going. No, take them naps, take that time. When your body says, oh, lay down and go to sleep, do that. Do that for yourself. It is a gift. It is a gift.
Listening to the idea of listening to your body, which
Yes.
young people have no goddamn awareness of. They just going. And we all been there, but
Yes.
there comes a time when you got to slow down and reflect. Now, everybody, the name of the show today is The Benefits of White Privilege. We're gonna go over a few shows because we talk about racism, and we're not gonna let our feet up until some of these things change, right? So we talk about racism and all the sentiments of it, but a part of that, like inside of racism, Sonia, it's just the privilege some white people receive, even if they're not necessarily trying to be derogatory or inflammatory or
Right.
anything. They just experience a privilege that gives them a particular perspective. And we're going to discuss that today. The
Yeah.
biggest topic being the Brent Farve situation, but we have a couple news stories we're going to get into. And because it's Black History Month, me and my sister going to go over some individuals, some situations from Black history, just so y'all can get a grip on who you are, king, queen, you know what I mean? That's because I've heard people say you shouldn't call black people king or queen. All black people wasn't kings and queens. You don't get it, stupid. It's not
Right.
about if we all were kings and queens.
Right.
What you call somebody is a form of reverence.
Right.
Saying it out loud
Right.
is an empowering statement. What you say out your mouth, what you think in your mind, is very reflective of where you're going in your energy. So these things are important. You feel me? So,
Absolutely.
first news story for the day. Sonia, the white supremacist who, let me read a little bit of this, because he killed 10 people.
Yeah.
A white supremacist who killed 10 black people at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York last year was sentenced to life in prison on Wednesday after listening to relatives of his victims express their pain and rage. The sentencing hearing for Payton Gendron, that's the gentleman's name, the white supremacist name, Payton Gendron, was disrupted when he was charged at by a man in the audience who was quickly restrained. It resumed after about 10 minutes. So the family of these victims were upset, and they should be. They were dealing with a lot of trauma and pain. And this young 19-year-old man
Yeah.
went into this store and killed these 10 people, Sonia. And when we look deeply into this type of activity, something I was talking to you about a few minutes ago, he is dealing with an ideology called replacement theory, where
Yeah.
white people think they're going to be replaced by immigrants, black people, all the same, but it's rooted in racism. So when you've seen him getting sentenced, how do you feel about that?
I am glad that this has been swift justice. Like, okay, so let me just give a quick little lesson when we talk about government and the way that our system is supposed to work, designed to work rather. Um, a person is arrested. They have been given their charges, right? They go forth for arraignment. Arraignment can either lead to you being released on your own recognizance, bail being set, you paying bail, you hiring your own private attorney, or you being assigned a public defender. If you can't afford to bail out or bail is denied, you sit in a local county jail, unsentenced.
Hmm.
That means you haven't gone to trial yet. Then, as a jury is selected, sometimes that's an arduous process. Long story short, a person is due a speedy trial. And I don't even think that it's the person. They deserve a speedy trial, but the community also deserves a speedy trial.
Hmm.
And oftentimes in these cases, they get drawn out and drawn out and drawn out. Specifically when the defendant is a Black person, they get drawn out and drawn, and you just sit there and you haven't been convicted of anything. And I use the example of right here in Sacramento County Jail, like upwards of 80% sometimes of the people who are housed at our 2 jail facilities are unconvicted people. And so when you know that there's not a speedy process because they're not in a hurry to let you out, but this man, we want to get his case over with. I'm happy about that part. I'm happy that there is some sense of closure for the family. They'll never get their loved ones back. That community of Buffalo, New York will never be the same. I was a little, I felt a certain kind of way when they reopened that store after, and didn't give a proper memorial to the individuals. But I was elated hearing the heartfelt cries of family members and friends who testified in that sentencing hearing. So you go to trial, and either you're found guilty by your peers, and sometimes you don't have a jury trial. You might be, the case might be determined by a judge, but in this case, there was a jury. He was found guilty. Then soon after, usually within 30 to 90 days, there's what's called a sentencing trial, and that's just what happened. So now that sentencing is happening, he will be transferred from a county jail to a prison facility. And that's where he will spend the remainder of his sentenced time. And so I think that that's important for people to understand, because we need to understand due process. We need to push for, in cases when it's us that are the defendants, that we get speedy trials too. And I just think that they handle white bodies. This goes along the line of privilege, the theme of today. We talked about this a little bit last week when we talk about the indoctrination of white supremacy on white young boys in particular, but boys and girls are being indoctrinated. And that age range is between 13 and 19. So he fell right in there. We don't know how soon he was beginning to be indoctrinated with this, racist ideologies, this replacement theory, all of that stuff. But it is fact. And I'm just glad another racist is taken off of, the streets of America, and that he can't harm with racialized terrorism, because that's exactly what it is. And I'm hoping that it sent a message to his friends who are, in the same vein. That was my friend, and we used to have lunch around the table about talking about them ends this and them wetbacks this and those illegal alien. I'm hoping that this sent a message that it ain't worth it.
It ain't worth it. And people don't realize that that type of rhetoric, that's why racism is so dangerous. When we see certain rhetoric being spoke about in your job or with friends amongst you people like that, when people get to talking like that, they may move that conversation to some sort of action. And something else I want to mention, Sonia, in this article, the first word was white supremacist, right? So when a white person kills us, they call them a white supremacist. But Black people, melanated family,
come on.
What we need to realize is a white supremacist is not just a lone shooter or some type of mass shooting suspect. We got white supremacists in suits. We got white supremacists at the schoolhouse. Like, let's not put an unfair face on all of white supremacy. It's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of them don't have guns. They killing us by the pharmaceuticals they give us. They killing us by miseducating your child. They killing us by locking us up by the droves, right, Sonia? So it ain't just a mass shooter that's a white supremacist.
Absolutely. I mean, we have several cases that have been coming out of, the woodworks being reported as news as of late. And it always happens in February, unfortunately. This is
Mhm.
the way that white supremacists really and truly try to leave their mark on and intimidate Black folks around this country.
Mhm.
Like there's a school, I don't know where it is, but the white teacher decided that the activity to teach about slavery, she brought in cotton balls and she put Vaseline. One Black kid in the 8th grade in her class, and she solicited him to come up to put the Vaseline on his nose so that he
Wow.
can use his nose to dip into the cotton to see how you pick cotton with your nose.
Wow.
Last
Wow.
week we talked about the three little white girls
Yep.
who sprayed painted. These things happen in February for a reason. It's a way to intimidate. I asked my boys, we are in a progressive state, the 4th largest economy in the world, supposedly a blue state, but I always check that. I always say we got a lot of red politics.
Yeah.
But I ask my boys all the time, what is your school doing for Black History Month? What
Mm.
have you learned new other than what your mom and we've, had conversations about at home?
Mhm.
Has there been any attempts? And unfortunately, in a very diverse district of Elk Grove Unified School District, very close to Sacramento, there's not a lot of efforts.
Hmm.
And on top of not a lot of efforts, there are Black folks in positions of leadership in my children's school district, who are blocking
Hmm.
the progressiveness, the pride that can be coming out of this, the education that can come out of. There was supposed to be an all district BSU ball this year that we were planning. The parents, the Black teachers, Black
Hmm.
educators were planning for all of the high schools. It
Hmm.
was canceled, and the decision was made by a Black man.
And the decision was made by a Black man. Think
So
about
we got to
the
question those
precedent,
things.
that sets. And we like we've talked about how Black History Month is kind of bastardized. Like me
Yes.
and my wife we went to, I think, Target. We went to Target and she seen some Walmart or Target. She seen some dolls of God damn it. It's two poignant Black female figures.
Hmm.
We have the dolls of these women, and I'm torn because I want to give them to my granddaughter because these individuals are important and they
Right.
should learn about them. But Target making the money.
Right.
See, Target getting the bread. You know what I mean?
So what I say to that, we have to do our homework. I
Mhm.
will say that Target has done and only because I know folks on the inside who are working extremely hard with their diversity, equity, and inclusion programming,
Mm.
not just on an employee level, but with their vendors. They are taking equity to another level at Target. So last year,
Ah.
a few years ago, this wasn't last year, but a few years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, there was this push. I used to be one of the leaders with Black Lives Matter here in
Mhm.
Sacramento, but we had a campaign where we were pushing big box stores like Target, Walmart, Costco's to do a better job of representation, not just with
Mm.
your employee base, but what your products are, and making sure that you have Black vendors in your and creatives within your stores. And so Target is the only one, from my recollection, that not only responded in kind, but said, what are some areas that we can do better? And we gave them
Hmm.
a checklist of 10 things, do this. And I have seen, like my local Target on Laguna, last year I went in there and they specifically had an area set aside. They do it not only for Black History Month, they do it for Cinco de Mayo, they do it for Asian American history, they do it for women's history, and they do it for Pride Month. And they
Hmm.
have a specific area in the store where you're purchasing things that are from either local Black creatives, or represent that, whatever the theme is.
Mhm.
um and a portion of the proceeds goes directly to that creator, and it gives a cute little bio of who the person is, where they're from, with the design idea. So because of that, I bought my kids, my granddaughter saw the shirt. It had an image of a Black woman with an afro, and she every Black History second year she's able to wear that shirt. My son reminded me the other day, he's in elementary school. He said, "Mama, this that shirt you bought me last year for Black History." And he wears it. He like, I'm wearing it every week, and I don't care who say what about it. Same with my middle school kid, and my babies at least remember that. So that means that I know other kids are remembering that. And so if other non-melanated or melanemic folks would go into stores that are making concerted efforts like a Target, and they make those purchases, that's where the impact happens. It can't just be us showing up wearing, something that's pride filled. I want to see some white, some brown, some, yellow folks coming up into these school campuses saying that, yes, Black history is important. Because the one thing that little 8th grade boy said, who had the Vaseline put on his nose to put it into the cotton, he said, I don't believe that they believe that Black history is important. So they turn these things into games.
That's interesting. I'm happy you do what you do for a living. That's an interesting perspective. I see Target, Walmart, big white company. I don't know who's behind what I'm looking at, so I'm a little untrustworthy. That's insight you giving me. That's perspective saying, you know what? Yeah, they big and white, but they notice the blind spots.
Yes,
genuinely, because if there's an ally that's genuine in nature, I'm with it.
I want to know who you are.
As long as you're not trying to capitalize, but if you being genuine, I'm with that. So that's giving me perspective that Target they're being intentional.
Not perfect, but they're being intentional. And it's a Black woman she's upper management. She's not, she's a six-figure upper management. Yeah, so not only did they bring one of us in to not just consult, but to lead the work and not burden her with, oh my God, if this fails, it's all on you and you'll be fired. So that's the sense that I've gotten from that. And I think that other organizations can follow suit, and they should be following suit.
Great perspective. Great perspective. Last thing I want to say about this gentleman who basically killed. We're talking about the gentleman who killed 10 people. Hold on one second, you guys. Who killed 10 people in Buffalo, New York last year. He's been sentenced to life in prison. The young man's name is Payton Gendron. One last thing I wanted to say about this, Sonia. His motivation for doing this mass shooting was something that white supremacists and racists call replacement theory. Talk to me about that real quick, Sonia. What is replacement theory?
Replacement theory is this coined phrase that really got popular during the Trump administration. I call him, and forgive me those who, if I offend anyone, I call him Fucker Carson over there on Fox TV, because he is really one of those kind of people who just, he's going to manipulate every opportunity he has a platform, and Fox is going to be who Fox is going to be, but Fucker Carson is going to say some dumbass shit. And so it caught wind. And so if you remember in South Carolina, when they had those tiki torches, you will not replace me. So he took that, and then replacement theory became this coined phrase. And it's so unfortunate, because it was young college and high school white kids who kind of fell on the sword. Tucker ain't sharing none of his proceeds, his earnings with these folks. But when they showed up at the Capitol on January 6th, 2 years ago, Tucker ain't paying to get these folks exonerated and out of jail. So we got to connect the dots where you have a talking head, basically, is what he is. And he puts ideas out there that represents a faction of people who really and truly, they don't vote for their interests. They vote based on race. We have to be aware that there are people out there like that. And so I was listening to Urban View today, and there was a political analyst that was on Karen Hunter's show, and she said something like, Black folks vote in mass and they vote for their interest. White folks don't vote in as much mass, but they vote based on race. And this is what the data is saying. right? And so we have to really look at that, because at the end of the day, right now, Black folks as a collective, we don't have the numbers. 13 or less percent is not going to get in every state who we need in office to represent us if they're Black or other.
Yes, definitely.
So we have
Definitely.
to take that into consideration.
Yes. So we need to be aware that also what I wanted to mention before we finish this topic, that what he's doing is a trend. I read another article that basically went into the fact that the publicity
Yes.
that's gained from the mass shooting is the goal.
Yes.
So if another kid, 17, 15, see this other 18-year-old do this mass shooting, it's on the news, it gets 15-day coverage.
Yeah.
This is his 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
They're looking at it like that, kind of. You see what I'm saying? So this is, we need to,
they become overnight sensations.
overnight celebrities, and you will be surprised how these men are treated in prison by not the prisoners. Some of the prisoners give them shit, but the outside world.
Yes.
The letters they get, the book deals they get, it's almost big business. So America needs to realize that as Black folks, we not stupid. When we was doing something you perceived as dangerous to everybody, you patrolled our neighborhoods and make sure you arrested us.
Yes.
You still do it today. So
Absolutely.
the fact that mass shootings is predominantly white supremacists in this country ain't did nothing yet, it's a telltale sign of how they feel about us. You feel me?
Absolutely.
So, next story. In Florida, I want to play a quick video. This is, I can't make this shit up, man. We have so many different instances where, Jesus, and like the show, follow the show, Melanated Convo. Me and my sister Sonia Williams Lewis. We on Facebook. We on YouTube. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the platform. Now, in Florida, a Black woman is taking her children out of daycare because for Black History Month, they decided to dress or put blackface on all of the small white kids as some type of montage to us. It's crazy shit. But I want to play the quick video just to get the reaction from the mother, how the school reacted, and then me and Sonia are going to give our commentary. Let's go.
I'm like, is this even real?
This is how a daycare in Miami celebrated Black History Month. A classroom full of 2-year-olds in blackface.
Where are the checks and balances, right? So nothing like this happens.
Good job. Courtney Politis, whose 1-year-old daughter attended the daycare but was not in this particular class, says she was horrified when another parent at the school shared these photos originally posted on the daycare's app. They have since been removed.
I get a phone call from a close mom friend whose child also goes to the school. And she's like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what they've done in our child's class. Like, I'm sickened right now. I'm completely, there's no words. And I'm like, well, tell me. She's like, well, they painted all the children's face, blackface, and sent messages out saying Happy Black History Month.
She reached out to daycare owner and director Patricia Vitale that same day.
And immediately sending the screenshot over to her, and I let her know, I'm like, this is racist. Her response, I'm sorry, ? I don't understand. What are you saying? What is racist? Blackface. In our school, we don't use this word neither. We have this kind of mind.
As a mother of 2 young biracial children, Politis says it's hard to protect them.
I thought we would have more time before these sort of things or racism or microaggressions would have to be experienced by our children.
Reached by CNN, Vitale declined to comment. But in a message sent to parents the day of the incident, Vitale wrote, "We have received a comment from one of our parents regarding the activity that was done in a teacher's class for the Black History Month. We have not intended to offend anyone, and we're very sorry about any inconvenience." The following Monday, Vitale sent another message about improving the training of daycare staff. Following the Black History Month incident, we wanted to let all the parents know that we met Friday afternoon with all the teachers and staff. We went over several ethical and multicultural education points. I will teach them a class covering all the necessary topics regarding U.S. history and multicultural education. You may rest assured this will never happen again.
Okay, so Sonia, hold on, let me get back to my screen here. So Sonia, when we look at this, why does it seem, Sonia, because you're an educator, and the first thing I would say, hold on one second. Wait. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First thing I would say is they need your services.
Yes.
The prime example of an organization who need to bring
Yes.
someone like you in. But Sonia, when we look at this happen, right? This is white privilege to me, everybody. These are adult Caucasians who are educators. How can they have a blind spot this big? How can they know that little of our culture to think this was okay?
Yeah. Ooh, I'm still taking deep breaths because I heard about the story, but I didn't see mom give that, blow by blow account and how it impacted. And what sticks out to me most and importantly as a mother is I thought I had more time. And I'm always going to quote my girl Imani Blair, who says, if our babies are young enough to experience racism, then their babies are young enough to learn about racism. I use that quote a lot. And so they watching. And it's unfortunate that our babies in particular begin to notice the difference at a younger age. They don't get to be the kid that they should be, right? But from an educator's perspective, where I was just completely blown away was the text message response was sorry ?
Sorry, like what am I sorry for, black lady?
Right. And then you had to play the cleanup game. And that's what I don't like about organizations is the cleanup game isn't even clean. Like your first message said that we're sorry that the Black History what is the
what is that?
What is that about, right? And then your next message is we're going to do some things better. And then so your cleanup game isn't even addressing. Your cleanup game isn't accountable. There's not transparency. I, as a parent, regardless of my race, I want to know what the curriculum looks like from now on at this daycare. Yes, at daycare, there's this distinction between daycare and are you going to daycare that actually has curriculum, or are you just going to daycare for that play, eat, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
My older kids will be like, we went to daycare. It was ran by this Black couple that went to our church. And Brother George and Miss Elise, bless their heart, they had animal therapy. So the kids got to go out there and play with goats and rabbits and chickens and all of the things. They then got to come in and learn how to cook. But the thing that my boys tell me all the time, you want to know what I learned at daycare? I learned how to play dominoes. That's how they learned how to count. Brother George was like, I'm going to show y'all how to play some bones.
That's very interesting.
But that's how they learned how to count. And to this day, my babies put numbers together in a different kind of way. I'll be like, thank you, Brother George. Thank
you, Brother George. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So I now want to know the curriculum, even at a daycare. And I also, because daycares are monitored and licensed, I then want to, as a person who's in the equity world, right? I want to take that a step further. And I want to know what some licensing criteria are that we can then begin to push from a state level. Because if you are like California has California Head Start, and a lot of the daycares fall under it because they want to get more funding and more money. They play the game. But every state has a Head Start program where a lot of these daycares are fed into. So I want to hold all of these chains, these links in the chain, accountable to not letting our babies fall by the wayside.
Yeah. And something like the type of company that you run, Ascribe Educational Consulting, everybody, this is like almost every company should look at look at the races of the teachers. If it's all white women, even if some of them aren't racist in their heart, they're gonna have blind spots. And things like this may happen. So you have to hire someone to come in immediately and teach them. But it's a privilege, though, to have this blind spot, to be able to not even consider what another race of people have been through when you move forward in life. that's an actual privilege, because
Absolutely.
everything white people have done, what they fake created, all this bullshit, we succumb to it every day.
Every day.
We succumb to it every day in our schools, in our jobs. We can't run from the shit. The thing about a lot of white Americans and a lot of like the racism we see today in the divide, we do not live around each other in large numbers. So white people be in this small enclave where I don't got to give a shit about what's going on with you black folks. I don't know nor care. I don't go to school with you. I don't go to the supermarket with you. I see two of you at the movie theaters. So what? All my neighbors are white. My kids play with all white kids, except for the one black kid. You know what I mean? It's always this type of environment. And this is baffling to me. I'm happy the sister took her kids out of the school. I'll be remiss if I didn't mention, I'm aware the sister is with a white man. Right. I'm happy. This is the positive part, I'll say. I'm happy she still felt pride in her young black children. Because sometimes, let's go there, biracial families, the black one may not even lean towards the black side. They may think, you know what? I got a white partner. We got all white neighbors.
I'm sheltered. Black?
I'm sheltered.
I'm protected.
And she cried and said, I didn't know I was going to have to teach them this early.
Yeah.
And it could have been because it was early, or it could have been my kids got curly hair.
Yeah.
Their heads are curly. They're not dark. Why am I getting this kind of experience? This is just being black and American. We need to realize all parents of biracial children, if you're a biracial person yourself, you should lean into both of your heritages.
Like absolutely.
You from Ireland, my sons have children with women who are not black. I don't have a problem as long as we educate both sides.
Absolutely.
Everything that's going on with both sides. And sometimes we have to realize that don't happen the way it needs to. So we end up with people who don't quite see it a benefit to discuss what the black kid has been through, what the white kid has been through, or what that side of your family has been through, and they try to shield it, then they get slapped in the face. You see what I'm saying? So we can't hide from the systemic racism in this country. That's what we were talking about, the white supremacists. Yeah, that young guy is labeled a white supremacist because he blatantly killed people. What about the teacher who believes in replacement theory?
Right.
Have we ever thought about that? Right. She ain't got a gun, but she do though.
and her gun is so incredibly strong because the little eighth grader with the cotton incident, the next day she retaliated against him. This is before she was eventually fired. But the next day she retaliated against him and had him come up in front of the classroom and berate him and say, so you're telling me that I'm racist? Say it to the whole class. I'm a racist. Oh, I'm a racist. So berate. So, and then, oh my gosh, and here's the kicker. As community began to call into the school and question and check the principal tried to change the whole narrative and say it was a team building experience. So now you telling me that this 8th grade boy, the only black boy in that class that experienced that racism, he went home to his mama and he lied? Nah, we can't play. See, the cleanup game is never clean. Mm-hmm. It always leaves crumbs behind. And so this is where I tell people, take ownership of where you fucked up. Mm-hmm. Because the dirt, the dust bunnies, the crumbs, they gonna all come out eventually. Other kids in that space are gonna say, yeah, no, that's not what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody else is gonna speak up for that child. Mm-hmm. But yeah, these situations we have to really be just high, and I hate that we have to be hypersensitive, but we really have to be hyper vigilant in fighting.
We need to. So shout out to this sister for realizing, and let's always positive solution. Yeah. This sister should use this as an opportunity to say, you know what? Yes, I married a white man.
Yeah.
But we need to realize how America looks at biracial people. We never called, this is what I was going to say earlier, we never called Barack Obama the half-white president.
No.
We never spoke to his white side. No. Every media pundit, everything political, which politics run this country to a degree, everything was black man. His white side was a goddamn footnote.
Yes.
To him being a black man. So if you got a You got 2% of black. If anything about your phenotype says African, you're subject to it. I don't care who your friends are. I don't care where you work, how you do your hair, all that kind of shit. They're going to look at you as a Negro when they need to.
Right.
You know what I mean? All right.
Absolutely.
So final story before we get to a couple of Black history facts, which I can't wait for. Brent Farve. Sonia, this guy, the mitigated gall of this white man. So Hall of Fame quarterback Brent Farve filed 3 separate defamation lawsuits on Thursday targeting Mississippi State Auditor Shad White, the guy who got his hand in a cookie jar, Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharp, and national sports commentator Pat McAfee, who I think is like a ex-football kicker.
Yeah.
The lawsuit stems from their comments about Favre's alleged role in the 2020 fraud case after investigators in White's office discovered that $77 million was missing from money allocated to temporary assistance for needy family funds in Mississippi. Farve was among several other defendants named in a state audit and civil lawsuit. According to court documents, the state found that a Mississippi charity that received the TAF money, TANF, TAF money funding, paid him $1.5 million for a speaking engagement that he never did. The former Green Bay Packer quarterback paid the money back. You know what I mean? So he admitted that there was some fraudulent nature in there, and it just keeps getting worse because there's text messages from him stating what needs to happen. The University of Southern Mississippi, Favre's alma mater, received $5 million of that money that went to the Athletic Foundation. Right. So, Sonia, Brent Favre was caught doing with capitalists and Caucasian men in this country, to me, have trained themselves to do. It's almost like business as normal.
As usual.
You take money and then you allocate the shit wherever you want to put it and do whatever you want to do and say it got there however you want to say. Right. It's white privilege at its finest. And him filing this lawsuit because they went on to say, the prosecutors and everything went on to say, hey, man, what are you doing? We caught you, bro. We caught you, bro. So when you see a news story like this, Sonia, what do you think?
Bless your white privilege. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. So the definition, let's get to the root, the meat and potatoes here, like for real. White privilege or white skin privilege, because we also know that there's white privilege where people don't necessarily have to be white, but because of their proximity based on their pheno features in looking white. So white skin privilege is also a form, is a societal privilege that benefits white people over non-white people in some societies, particularly if they are otherwise under the same social, political, or social economic circumstances. Now, I want to take that a step further because not only can we think about how white privilege shows up in places and bless Brett Favre's heart for thinking that he's going to waste the time of the judicial system in Mississippi, because we know that it has single-handedly made sure that white privilege stays embedded in, systemically in, institutionally and structurally within the guise of what this is, right? We are going to uphold white supremacy. And so inherent advantage is possessed by a person who is white or white-skinned, only on the basis of their race.
Yep.
We already know that race is a false construct. It is a made-up, man-made construct. It is not our phenotype. It is not our culture type. It is not our ethnicity. It is not our, I can go on and on, like really and truly. Brett Favre, you didn't piss me off today because not only did you take from folks who are disadvantaged in the state of Mississippi, your ass knew that you was wrong and you gave the money back. So now you mad that somebody talked about it?
Mad that somebody talked about it. How dare you, white men? You say, you know what? Instead of paying y'all the money back that I owe, I'm going to spend some money on the lawyers and drain everybody's time.
Yes.
You see? So this is complete bullshit. And this is what happens, though, because I removed the athletic part. Like, if you go back in this man's career, he said a lot of things about black teammates of his.
Yes.
He's been real shiesty. And this is the part of racism that we need to realize. We call in white supremacists to men who just pick up a gun and kill us. But
No.
what about the men that are underhanded?
Yes.
What about the men that smile in your damn face? Then behind your back, you ain't nothing but a nigga. Yeah, we teammates, but you better not come to my house.
Right.
If I see you on my doorstep, I'm calling the cops like anybody else would. You see what I'm saying? Because if he was black, hear me when I say this, everybody. If Brett Favre was black, this motherfucker would have went on an apology tour. Like, he would have been on 5 talk shows apologizing. And
he wouldn't have had an opportunity to give the money back because he would have been charged with a crime.
He would have been charged with a crime, got bailed out, and he would have been on TV looking like a sad puppy.
Yes.
I'm sorry I stole it. This is so treacherous. The commentators and everybody involved would have gave him shit. I salute Shannon Sharp, the white guy, Pat McAfee. I salute him. There wasn't a lot of salacious comments about Brett Favre. When this came out on ESPN and other places, they were kind of making light of it, just kind of throwing it out there. I'm like, damn, okay, I get it. But okay, so real quick, everybody listening to me. Mike Vick fought dogs, right?
I was just going to say,
horrible.
How
I got dogs.
They drug Mike Vick.
I got dogs. I would never fight them. I think it's brutal, me personally. Right. But $77 million stolen, Mike Vick's life got upended for years.
Ruined his life. Decade at least for him to recover from that incident.
And he's still apologizing.
And he's still every time I open my mouth. I gotta remind y'all that
I'm sorry.
Super sorry.
Am I getting my paycheck still?
Right.
I'm my bad. You see what I'm saying? So the privilege that some of these white folks possess, and we have to call it out because you can always do right.
Yeah.
Like, you can do something. This is what America wants you to do. You can do something like that. Apologize. Donate some money to a charity. Donate some money over there. Do some speaking engagement. Smile with the victims. There's a way America has structured people redeeming themselves.
Yeah.
Unless you're white. You ain't got to redeem yourself. You see what I'm saying? So, man, look. This is what he gets. Hopefully the case get thrown out and he got to pay back all that money, or him and his cronies, because it wasn't just him. See, it was a whole group of white folks that probably sat down and said, okay, how can we siphon this money?
Yeah.
Let's do it the old American way. And we got to realize the American way a lot of times is the racist way, and the way that looks at the downtrodden and the impoverished people as a tool that I can use. So Brett Favre is just doing what presidents have done.
Absolutely.
And I think a part of him is saying, wait, what I do? He probably calling his lawyer, Sonia, like, y'all told me this was cool.
Right.
Y'all told me I wasn't going to get in trouble. Michael, fix it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and file a counter lawsuit.
I just want to give people a couple of other ideas so that they can think about how white privilege also manifests. So there's this article that I always refer to. It's from the Yes magazine, Solutions Journalism, and they have a list of 10 examples that prove white privilege exists in every aspect of life imaginable. Number 1, I have privilege of having a positive relationship with the police generally. Number 2, I have the privilege of being favored by school authorities. Number 3, I have the privilege of attending segregated schools of affluence because I can afford it. Number 4, I have the privilege of learning about my race in school, hence Mexican American, hence Italian American, hence German American, Asian American. And if you go to Florida, all of those AP classes are offered while DeSantis is still fighting ethnic studies for Black history. I digress. Number 5, I have the privilege of finding children's books that overwhelmingly represent my race. 6, I have the privilege of soaking in media that blatantly is biased towards other races. Number 7, I have the privilege of escaping violent stereotypes associated with my race, because the Black race as a collective is seen as violent, whereas when a white boy who goes into a store in Buffalo, New York and shoots up mass killing, he's seen as individually violent, not the white race. So I have that as a privilege. Number 8, I have the privilege of playing the colorblind card, wiping the slate clean of centuries of racism. That's the cleanup that ain't so clean. Number 9, I have the privilege of being isolated from everyday toil of racism. And then the final one, I have the privilege of living ignorant by choice of the dire state of racism today.
And there we go, everybody. Miss Sonia Williams Lewis just broke down the definition of white privilege piece by piece. That was beautiful, Sonia. Thank you very much. Now, before we leave the show today, everybody, I want to talk about a few people from Black history, a few incidents, right? It is Black History Month. Me and Sonia always talk about how this country does not do us justice. So we're going to talk about a few different individuals. Today, I want to talk about a brother by the name of Madison Washington, right? I think before we talked about, hundreds upon hundreds of slave revolts have taken place in this country. Most of them were not successful, but I need my Black folks to get in your mind that we weren't just sitting around getting our ass whipped.
Yeah.
A lot of us said, no, none of this makes sense. Today, I'm getting out of here right now.
Yeah.
There was a slave revolt that was successful. It's called the Creole case.
Yes.
It's called the Creole case. This is November 1841. A ship called the Creole. And basically, a brother by the name of Madison Washington, an enslaved man who had escaped Canada in 1840, but was captured and sold when he returned to Virginia in search of his wife, Susan, was among those being shipped to New Orleans on November 7th, 1841. Washington and 18 other male slaves rebelled, overwhelming the crew and killing the slave traders on board, the ship's captain, several of the crew members. The bottom line is, and I want you guys to look them up because I'm going to tell you about these people, but I want you to do your own due diligence so it can stick in your mind. Basically, these brothers overtook this slave ship and they directed them to an island that was free. So they directed them to a place where we are free here. Yeah. So once they got there, they were actually freed. How about that, Sonia?
Yes.
They freed themselves.
Yes. Absolutely. I get excited that you find stuff that just really the magnitude of this. So historically, there were lots of slave revolts, one that didn't get documented. And if they got documented, once emancipation happened, the white slave owners and the people who were in political power at that time were very intentional about destroying the record. So if you destroy the record, you can't prove that it happened. Yep. But we also know that there was a series of interviews after emancipation took place where former slaves were interviewed. What was your life like? Tell me where you were born. Who was your mom and your daddy? Who was your slave masters? They went around and they collected these stories. People can go and find those stories. And you will hear in these stories that there were lots of slave revolts. But I love that story, the Creole case, because they were navigators on this ship and they knew where they were going. This reminds me of the Amistad, incident. They didn't get to a free place, but they ended up in the free territory in the north, and they stayed off the coast of Philadelphia until they were promised their freedom, and then they would get off. But they killed the crew. So we got ancestors who've been fighting the good fight now. Don't get it twisted. Even when we go into these jail systems that the jail has replaced slavery, they've been fighting inside them prison walls.
Come on now. They want you to think of the docile nature of the African man and woman. That's why they bastardize our brother Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes, he is a caricature, and it just irks the shit out of me that you turned this great man into this cartoon character and you just profit off of him and regurgitate the same things.
Yep, and he was an evolved man who said, I may have led my people into a burning building.
Right.
I didn't know they was this treacherous. Look, here, let me give it to you in Negro term. I didn't know they was this treacherous, y'all. I was trying to get some laws passed. I ain't know they was going to keep being like this. Right. If so, I would have went to my church that was stockpiled with guns, right? Because Martin wasn't no punk. Martin wasn't no punk. I would have went and got them guns and took care of it, y'all. I thought I was going to follow the political route.
Right.
I was going to follow the route that America has set out to solve problems. And look what ended up happening to that brother. And that's the biggest thing about Black History Month. So when we talk about like a Martin Luther King Jr., you guys killed him.
Yes.
And nobody liked him when the black entertainer, the black civil rights leader, the black revolutionary, they create this love relationship years later.
Yes.
They don't do it to Malcolm X as much because of what he completely stood for. They don't do it to him. But Martin, you can go with recent people like a Mike Tyson or a Floyd Mayweather. It don't matter who it is. Mike Tyson is doing great now in media and what he's doing, but they had to break that brother. He's a shell of the kind of man he used to be. And he was just a millionaire who did what the fuck he wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's who Mike Tyson was. But like, no. We're going to get a rape. We're going to find some way, i.e. Jack Johnson, to get your black ass out that ring and stop knocking all these white boys out.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So this is what they do to us.
That's how they do
to us.
Absolutely.
Yes, so we need to be aware of this. Like Black History Month should upset you, but it should put you on a quest to find new things out, find new people out, right? Now, next person we're going to talk about real quickly before we get out of here, a sister by the name of Septima Poinsetta Clark. I'm bringing up this sister, right? Because for one, my sister Sonia is an educator like Septima was, Mrs. Clark. She is perhaps the only woman to play a significant role in educating Black people, melanated people, for full citizenship rights without gaining significant recognition. Now, Clark not only taught young students, but she held informal literacy classes for adults. She also pushed an educational and equal rights agenda in numerous organizations, such as the Young Women's Christian Association, the Council of Negro Women, the NAACP in 1956. When South Carolina banned membership in the NAACP, Clark lost her teaching job and pension when she refused to comply. Revolutionary, right? And she went on to continue to teach Black kids about literacy. She was very close with Martin Luther King Jr. She was very close with Rosa Parks. So this is, and please do your own due diligence. Look this sister up. Septima Poinsetta Clark was one of the individuals who was behind the scenes. She may not have been out there visibly marching and doing different things, but she was behind the scenes trying to educate our people. And this is in the 1800s, y'all. When it was when us reading or learning was illegal. You see what I'm saying? So she's important in our history, Sonia.
She's so super, like, she's one of my sheroes. You know, as a Black woman educator, I look at people where I can be like, okay, I'm standing on that woman's shoulders. And she's one of those women for me. Septima Clark is like, she came from nothing. Like, I like, we had this conversation just a little bit last week. I appreciate the stands and the positionality that a Rosa Parks was able to bring to the table, right? She fit the cloth. She came from a married household. Her husband was an attorney. There was some affluence there. They were connected with the white, so they had ways to build. September was like straight off the plantation, and she was like, somebody taught me in the slave quarters how to read, and I'm going to teach everybody I come in contact with how to read. And so that's the journey, right? That is how, you know, teach one, reach one. We got to pass it on. We got to lift as we climb. We can't go there alone. We are not an island. We are not a monolith, and we cannot expect that everyone's going to get there at the same time. But it's important that we recognize the importance of all of us. Like, all skin folk ain't kin folk. But while we put this person over here on the table and watch them from a, you know, close distance and be like, okay, are you going to harm us as a group and not, you know, be a part of the collective movement that we need to benefit us as a collective? Or do I gotta, you know, keep you at an arm's length away? I love the story, and there are so many Septima Clarks out there. We just don't know because, of course, you know, I wanted to do, for me, she just is that, like, I'm an Oakland chick. I'm from the hood. I ended up in Meadowview, and I didn't come from nothing. How I ended up with, you know, a BA degree and a master's degree, it wasn't supposed to happen. I had one of my mentors, still to this day, I talk to John Copeland on a regular basis, and he was one of my former teachers at Burbank. And he told me one day, in my adult life as a grown-ass woman, you wasn't supposed to make it. Think about all the stereotypes that comes with a black girl, a dark-skinned black girl, a hood black girl, a thick-lipped black girl, a thick-figured black girl, a big-nosed black girl, a nappy-headed black girl. All of the things that go along with just being a black girl in this country that says you ugly, you loud, you're aggressive, you wasn't supposed to make it, but I did.
There we go.
And with that being said, I only was able to make it because of a September Clark.
That's so powerful. And the thing is, we have so many connections. John Copeland, I went to Burbank High School and played basketball.
Yep.
From 8th grade, when I was in 8th grade, because my brother went to Burbank as well, Isaac, and John Copeland was his coach. When I was in 8th grade, Mr. Copeland, coach, he took a liking to me.
Yeah.
And in 8th grade, I began playing for him.
Yeah.
He did everything for me. I didn't have shoes, Sonia. He bought me shoes.
That's hope.
I as a freshman, I signed up to go to Burbank, partially because of my brother. The other part, Cope, he pretty much recruited me to go to the school, right?
Yeah.
Freshman year, and I have to tell this story. Freshman year, I realized he told me he was going to Sac High.
Yeah.
I start crying like a baby. I said, I'm coming.
He called some of us, and he was like, I got to make a move. And we like, what you talking about, make a move?
I said, I'm coming. He said, no.
Yeah.
My ass is going to take care of you.
Yes.
Stay here, get it done. And as a kid, I remember thinking, like, I had older brothers. My father wasn't around.
Right.
But this is the closest
Yes.
type of father. He had like a mythical energy to him.
Yeah.
Like he was the godfather type of shit almost. I looked up to this man so much, you know what I mean? So we went to Sac High and he was there and we beat their ass.
Yeah.
And he was so proud of me and I was so happy to perform in front of him. So the leaders in our community, the black men and women who've been teachers, different type of educators, they leave an impact. If they're genuine and do things the right way, they leave an impact on you. And people don't realize this is your life's legacy.
Yeah.
My family owns a funeral home. I'm always at funerals doing different technical things, doing my best to help out. Nope. When people get up and talk, they never talk about your car. They never talk about that big old Benz you had or that big old boat you used to bring them on. That's never the topic of conversation. Right. It's integrity. It's the soul of a person. It's the actions of a person, not materialistic things. So yeah, money's necessary. Get as much of it as you can to help your family. But what you do for people, what you do in this society, that's your legacy. Yeah. That's how you're going to live forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode.
Let me say one more thing because I would be remiss if I didn't. So today I chose to wear one of my my Black History t-shirts and it says accept no imitation. So we have to remember, especially in the vein of Black history, is that we are the leaders of culture in this country. And so cross colors, if you remember back in the day, in the 90s, like we was getting down with what's the two little light-skinned rapper boys who wore crisscross. Clothes backwards and stuff. Cross colors was one of the first Black clothing lines that came out of the hip hop era. So I just want to encourage, if you have a young person who is around you and they are creative, let them inspire to be the greatest creator that they can be. Because I had to do some homework and research because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't. But during the time of slavery, there's a dress clothing designer. Her name was Elizabeth Keckley, and she was a slave in the 1860s, born in Virginia, and she was a dressmaker for Mary Todd Lincoln, the wife of Abraham Lincoln. She is noted as the first Black dress designer for a major, political leader. And I mean, there are lists of us. I mean, the ones that get notoriety like Sean Puffy Combs and Kanye West, but there are, the Rihannas that are out there, but there are so many of us who have led the conversation when it comes to fashion, when it comes to music, when it comes to just the way to be in the world. It's because of Black genius. And so I just want to inspire you as adults who are listening to inspire your young people to be creative along this journey, because we are not a monolith. I like color, and I could not say something about cross colors. My nephew found this t-shirt for me, and I was like, that's going in my Black History Month collection. You don't even know what cross. He was like, oh, I know that this is some retro shit. I'm like, you don't even know about cross colors. Boy, do some homework.
Say the name of that sister one more time, Sonia.
Her name is, let me bring her back up here. I think it's Margaret Kesley. Her name.
Margaret Kesley.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth Keckley.
Elizabeth Keckley. Yeah, so we have been behind the scenes giving white folks flavor for generations.
Flavor, I tell you.
Where else they gonna get it? Where else they gonna get it? You know what I mean? Damn, we owe. That's why I talked to my brother on Tuesday about reparations. They owe us money.
Pay me my money.
They owe us money. God damn, we didn't tired of doing all this for y'all. Anyways, thank you everybody for tuning into another episode of the Melanated Convo Podcast. My sister Sonia Williams Lewis. Yes. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Find us at the website, ascribesuccess.com. Book a consult, look at what we're doing, subscribe to our newsletter. But yeah, get tapped in. If you know an organization like that little daycare down in Florida, those are the kind of situations we like to find ourselves in. But you got to be willing.
Yeah, got to be willing, and definitely this is a necessary business model that may have been around for a while. I know it was heightened after all the killing of Black folks, but it's so necessary. It's so, and you bring that heat like you. And that's the thing I love about you, Sonia. You the same way here. Group of white folks, group of Black folks. That's called being on code, y'all. I'm gonna give you this work.
I'm gonna give you the business now. I look, Harrison. I set the hot plate right on the table in front of them. I take a step back and I be like, "Who want to touch the hot plate?" We can be silent for as long as we gonna be silent until somebody get comfortable touching this hot plate. Like, let's play hot potatoes here, because we know it's gonna come to us eventually. It's gonna be fire. You gonna have to face it. No longer can we live in this vein of fear this and fear that as an excuse to not engage.
That's absolutely correct. My name is Harrison. This is the Melanated Convo Podcast. Find us here Tuesday and Thursday. The Thursday edition has my sister Sonia Williams Lewis. Follow me on Instagram at Melanated Convo 100, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We out.